One minute you're a 15-year-old girl getting model scouted while shopping after school in Covent Garden, and the next you're celebrating your 16th birthday with an Elle magazine editorial cover. Naomi Campbell's come up was indeed very fast and very intense. Nobody would have guessed that a young black girl from South London would go on to become arguably the most iconic runway model of all time. She, along with the rest of the Big Five, would become the world's very first supermodels, and her name alone could sell magazines and entire fashion shows. Evidently, Naomi has done a whole lot for the industry as well as the people in it, and I haven't even touched on race yet. But alas, nobody is perfect, and some can apparently even be borderline narcissistic and even violent at times. As some of the controversies that have been surrounding Naomi for the past 5 years or so have revealed that she may just be a terrible person. Which is why I wanted to make this video and ask the question, can you ignore the bad when you know somebody has done so much good? Should we maybe forgive Naomi for all of the potentially awful things that she's done? And are these controversies tied to her even any true? We are going to take a dive into it all here today. So sit back, chill out, and let's figure this out together. Born on the 22nd of May 1970, Naomi Campbell was raised in Streatham, South London, and spent most of her childhood there. Her biological father had left before she was born, leaving her mother, Valerie Morris, to play 2 roles. Acting as a single mother proved to be difficult, especially when touring Europe as a professional dancer, hence why Naomi would often stay with her relatives throughout the years. Despite this unconventional upbringing, Naomi has often described her childhood as being surrounded by powerful women, which gave her confidence from a very early age. From as young as 3, Naomi boldly decided that she wanted to follow in her mother's footsteps, and soon after began studying dance. She later even attended the prestigious Italia Conti Academy, where she trained in ballet, tap, performing arts, and drama. Naomi looks back fondly at her time at the academy, claiming, quote, "Everybody was ambitious and competitive in a good way." She's also on record claiming that despite her eventual pursuit in modeling, the dance training that she had endured had definitely not gone to waste. Due to my very first reason as to why Naomi Campbell is indeed so awesome, her walk. As Conti's classical dance training would eventually help to create what is arguably the most famous runway walk in fashion history. One so unique and so impressive that it has not been done to the same degree since, despite many interpretations. Her posture, rhythm, and balance are all genuinely impeccable, with this natural development through dance training and physical confidence creating what photographers and designers have dubbed the Black Panther, due to movements that somehow convey both smoothness and strength. Jordan Dunn, Adut Akech, and Anok Yai are just a few of the countless big name models who have been directly influenced by this said walk. And you cannot deny that it really does convey how Naomi was literally born to be on the runway, which is honestly a statement that you can only say for a handful of fashion models throughout history. To give off such confidence on the stage from out of the gate is genuinely 1 in a million, and Naomi was able to do it for 3 core reasons. 1, of course, again, her history with dance. 2, her internalized female empowerment, which she inherited from her family. And 3, the fact that she had already entered the entertainment industry years before she had ever even become a model. As a child, she appeared in Bob Marley's Is This Love and Culture Club's I'll Tumble for Your music videos, as well as a handful of television performances, resulting in her already being comfortable in front of the camera by her early teens. Despite these initial advantages, however, Naomi's venture into the fashion industry would still prove to be more difficult than the average model due to one major reason: her race. As fashion in the mid-1980s was still deeply unequal, with many magazines and luxury brands rarely featuring black models and often claiming that black faces did not sell magazines or clothing, which is of course straight bullshit. Naomi often encountered this discrimination throughout her early years, but would continue to overcome through both confidence and determination, respectively. Leading us to the second major reason as to why Naomi Campbell is so awesome: her breaking of racial barriers. During an interview with Heart's Masterclass in 2017, Naomi claimed, quote, "I wouldn't say I went through racism, I would never accept it. I would rise to the challenge to prove and find another way to get around it and get what I wanted." This attitude and approach to facing racism within such an oppressive industry is indeed very awesome, and is a big reason as to why we see as much diversity within high fashion today. From being the first black model to appear on the cover of French Vogue, to being the first black model on British Vogue in over 20 years, being the first black model on the September issue of American Vogue, and the first black model on the cover of Time magazine, Naomi had literally forced an industry that had long treated black models as exceptions to recognize them now as commercially viable. This is a lady who has faced being paid less than her white peers, being rejected from magazine covers, and even being typecasted for shoots which were borderline racist. Yet she still prevailed and actively challenged the industry's lack of diversity, resulting in far more opportunity for the next generation, a change of perception with luxury brands, and of course a whole lot of fame and money. Speaking of fame and money, I think that brings me to my final reason as to why Naomi Campbell is indeed so awesome: her success. As without even discussing her race, Naomi's career is still to this day unmatched within fashion history. As I briefly mentioned earlier, Naomi wasn't simply a successful model, but was part of the group that literally invented the idea of a supermodel. Alongside Linda Evangelista, Cindy Crawford, Claudia Schiffer, and her best friend Christy Turlington, the Big Five would appear on talk shows, starred in music videos, signed huge endorsement deals, and were recognized by first name alone, with George Michael's iconic 1990 music video for Freedom essentially cementing this supermodel era, shooting the five girls into true superstar status. Alongside this, Naomi has also worked with virtually every major fashion house and is still in demand over 3 decades past her prime, despite most modeling careers on average lasting only a few years. She's also appeared in hundreds of fashion magazines, has transcended fashion on numerous occasions, often venturing into things like acting and business, and she has of course earned a great deal of money throughout her career, with an estimated net worth of over $80 million. When talking of Naomi's success, longevity may just be her greatest achievement. The fashion industry is famously unforgiving, particularly for a black woman during the 1980s. So the fact she was closing shows whilst Eddie Murphy was making his first big break with Delirious, and continues to still close shows now whilst Kai Cenat runs Streamer University, is beyond insane. And that is the difference between a fashion model and a fashion icon. So evidently Naomi Campbell is indeed a pretty incredible person and definitely deserves her status as a cultural fashion icon. And part of me wishes I could conclude the video here, but no. Unfortunately, now we must get into some of the core reasons as to why she may not be so great, in order to help us answer the question, is she awesome or is she awful? And I'd like to start off by addressing the 7-ton elephant in the room, her association with the Epstein files. Naomi knew Epstein socially, and her name appears in the files multiple times with links to contact books, flight logs, witness testimonies, and court exhibits. Where the situation gets more messy is with the handful of documented photos of the two together, particularly one taken at Naomi's own birthday bash in South Africa 2001. Now, in Naomi's defense, I would like to first say that her name appearing in relation to Jeffrey Epstein has often been exaggerated online. No criminal charges have actually been brought against her in relation to him, and all of the discourse online regarding her human trafficking is pretty much completely fabricated. I think where the main controversies regarding Naomi and Epstein should stem from are these two things. One, her apparent obliviousness to all of the heinous crimes being committed by him and his friends, and two, the fact that she very well may just be lying about being, quote, unaware of his crimes while she knew him. As in, you can literally see a 17-year-old Virginia Gruff, not sure if I'm saying that surname correctly, in a photo taken at Naomi's 21st birthday. I'm talking about a girl who had literally been recruited and trafficked by Epstein at age 16, and she was literally right there with Naomi on a boat to celebrate her own birthday. Like, what are we talking about, you know? This is unarguably pure textbook purposeful ignorance, and Virginia has even since publicly challenged Naomi by claiming that she had indeed seen her on multiple occasions while she was in Epstein's circle. I think at the end of the day, whether you think Naomi is innocent or not, and whether you think she had aided Epstein in committing crimes, you cannot deny that she definitely has a scary ability to turn a blind eye, and has subsequently profited off of some terrible crimes and practices, whether she knew they were happening or not. Alright, now that that's out of the way, let's swiftly move on to how awful some of Naomi's relationships have been, because Jesus Christ, they get pretty damn bad. Naomi Campbell and Sean Diddy Combs have known each other for over 2 decades. Their relationship has included friendship, business collaboration, public appearances, and dating rumors. At this point, I think we all know of Diddy's crimes: sexual assault, abuse, racketeering, sex trafficking, the list goes on and on and on. And the fact that him and Naomi have still remained so close over all of these years is suspect, to say the least. She also had a brief whirlwind romance with boxer Mike Tyson from 1989 to 1990, and continued to stay close friends with him for the decades to follow. Bear in mind, this is the same guy who has been convicted and jailed off of a charge in 1992. And then, of course, in 2011, Naomi openly defended her good friend John Galliano after a racist outburst in a coffee shop. You know, the one where he verbally abused waiters and claimed he, quote, loves Hitler. All of these examples only further add to the fact that Naomi has a very scary ability to turn a blind eye. It's almost like she just doesn't care when awful people do awful things. Now, I think it's only right that we have to cover Naomi Campbell's infamously terrible attitude, as this is where you could argue her model image has been tarnished the most, and her evil side can really be seen. Don't believe me? Well then, let's first talk about her repeated assault convictions that span over 2+ decades. In September of 1998, Naomi was convicted of assaulting her personal assistant by striking her with a mobile phone. She was then convicted of assault the same month. Then in 2000, she assaulted yet another assistant, where she pleaded guilty to grabbing and hitting her during an argument. Afterwards, in 2006, she threw yet another phone at her housekeeper after accusing her of losing a pair of jeans. The said phone actually struck her in the head and caused a wound that needed 4 staples. And where this story gets even more interesting is with what was to come afterwards, as Naomi subsequently received 5 days of community service and showed up to each and every one of them wearing something overly extravagant and overly expensive. She turned her punishment into a literal couture show, and the press ate it all up, particularly on her final day where she wore a silver Dolce & Gabbana dress, reportedly worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now tell me, is she really awful for pulling this stunt considering the circumstances? Or is she kind of awesome and iconic for it? Shortly after, in 2008, Naomi had a public meltdown at Heathrow Airport where she argued with the airline staff and spat at / assaulted 2 police officers according to prosecution evidence. Then, finally, in 2015, whilst leaving a fashion event in Rome, Naomi struck photographer Gaetano Di Giovanni, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, with her handbag. He claimed he suffered an eye injury and she was again found guilty of assault. Those are 5 major examples of Naomi Campbell fully just beating people up. And that isn't even considering what has maybe happened behind closed doors, because, you know, hush money is indeed a thing. Overall, these cases have caused Naomi to build a reputation of difficult behavior, to say the least, with former employees, assistants, and people in fashion frequently describing her as intimidating, demanding, unpredictable, and capable of sudden outbursts. Scary. She's also earned a huge reputation of being a diva, which isn't quite as serious as everything else I've mentioned so far, but still isn't great, as she's been accused of arguing backstage, clashing with staff, and is notoriously always late, like to everything.
I am a very punctual person, and I have the honor of presenting tonight to someone who is often late. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Sarah is always late.
After years of being labelled as short-tempered and an overall mean individual, Naomi finally decided to publicly acknowledge her struggle with anger and subsequently joined an anger management program plus counselling. These, along with her newly founded motherhood, have, quote, significantly changed her outlook and have made her calmer, which has then resulted in far less outbursts and meltdowns over the last decade, with her most recent controversy having nothing to do with anger nor violence, which is great. The situation is still really bad though. My final point as to why Naomi Campbell may indeed just be awful comes from just a couple years ago in 2024, where the UK Charity Commission concluded that there had been serious misconduct and mismanagement at the Fashion for Relief, the charity that she founded. Essentially, only a small percentage of the charity's spending reached charitable grants. They were instead used for luxury hotels, spa treatments, security, and other expenses connected to Campbell. And as a result, ice cream truck. And as a result, Naomi was rightfully disqualified from serving as a UK charity trustee for 5 years. If she were at the very least not already a multi-millionaire, this would already be unforgivable. But damn, it's like you already have all of this money. What is wrong with you? And yeah, I think that does it for the quote-unquote awful section of this video. It's very long, I know, but there was a lot to cover. What do you want me to say? Now let's finish this off with a solid conclusion to see whether this lady's actions can potentially be excusable or not. So to conclude, Naomi Campbell is on one hand a very inspiring figure within black culture, one who has triumphed over abandonment, racism, and mass judgment in order to become the best of the best within the fashion industry, Very inspiring indeed. On the contrary, I think the same things that did make her tougher and more powerful, e.g. her dad leaving her or the racism she endured, had also unfortunately damaged her, really badly damaged her in the long run, resulting in a lot of violence, in many meltdowns, and just an overall very nasty attitude. So do the pros outweigh the cons? Well, honestly, I don't know. As some would say, Naomi is literally a rights activist, while some may claim that she is just straight up demanding. Some say she's a great friend, others say she's intimidating. She's lovely, she's selfish, she's gentle, she's violent, she's great, she's terrible, she's talented, she's a diva. She is Naomi Campbell.